What is up, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today is the 16th episode of the United Mexican States. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you guys are interested in more episodes, go ahead and tell me your thoughts on this down below. As well, go ahead and become a member to help support me making more episodes like this and more content in general. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Basically, in the previous episode, what we did is we did a massive investment into education. This will give us more higher education students per population, more in numbers as well, which are already on our way up in terms of higher education students in percentage and in actual numbers. Illiteracy rate will be on its way down probably more sharply than it was before, and as well we will be reducing our student teacher primary and secondary ratio, which means that this number right here essentially means that 20 students per teacher is in a primary sector, and in the secondary schooling sector, 13 students per teacher is what a classroom looks like. And what we also want to do, we want to increase our percentage of scientists. So in the beginning of the game in 2023, we started off with 0.07% of the population being scientists, and now we're more than 0.25% of the population being scientists. So also number of teachers, we should be on our way up, and we will be reducing salaries pretty soon. I'm going to shoot for about 15,000 pesos. We also would like to consider a massive increase in salaries for all of our sectors, so in education, research, health, police, army, and possibly administration. However, usually whenever you increase your administration salaries, the WTO doesn't like that. I don't know why. It's kind of like a weird thing whenever they're just like, no, we don't really like it whenever you increase your administration salaries, which the benefit of increasing it is that it does reduce corruption, because whenever you increase your salaries there, the people don't really have to turn to corruption in order to achieve their goals. Which, speaking of, let's go ahead and check the corruption here. So if we go over to our next in line, moral character 54, we're gonna go over to we're gonna go to police. We're gonna go to police. We're gonna go to budget, and we're gonna go to internal affairs. Internal affairs is maxed out right now, so we should be okay. What I also decided here, and we're going to talk about this real quick before we go ahead. One of the questions that I had in this series was whether I should change the Mexican Constitution in order to allow me to run for a second term. What I have actually decided on, and we'll go ahead and talk about it right here, is that I will not be having Claudia Sheinbaum running in the next election. The next election will be being held in 2028, and the reason I am not going to have her run again is because one of the most sacred institutions of Mexican politics is that the president cannot run for a second term. One of the former Mexican presidents, Porfirio Diaz, was a notorious dictator in Mexican history, and he actually was one of the leading causes of the Mexican Revolution of 1911. What happened is that basically Diaz kept saying he ran in the 1876 election and basically said that he would step aside after the next election, and the next election came around, he said the same thing. Next election comes around, next one. He ended up running six consecutive times and ran as an actual authoritarian dictator over Mexico. What ended up happening is that someone by the name of Francisco Madero issued the Plan of San Luis Potosi, calling for an armed rebellion against Diaz after he fraudulently won the election of 1910. Diaz basically in 1910 said that he was going to step aside, but then apparently came back and said, no, I'm going to go ahead and run again, and rigged the election for a 95% vote against Madero. And that ended up leading to the Mexican Revolution to overthrow Diaz, and afterward was when there was a huge effort to ensure that kind of dictatorship would never happen again under Mexico. If I were to go over and change the constitution to allow Sheinbaum to run for a second term, that would destroy one of the most critical institutions of Mexico. And I would probably, if this was real life, I probably would be impeached immediately by the Congress of the Union. So that is not going to be something we will do. We will go with the default character, which should be this one right here, Natalia Atoxa. I'm very much skewering that name, so I'm going to try to make sure I know it by the next episode, or at least by the time she runs for president. So 2 women consecutively running for president in Mexico. Very interesting. So what we're also going to do, we're going to review some of the, we're going to let this play. We're going to review some of the political choices that we can do. So the legality, we have a free multi-party system, and the regulation of political funding. And I believe we did change the campaign finance rule whenever we came into power, was to avoid the whole situation of running with a capped budget and then how we would get money. We had to change that in order to allow it to be a little more free. I think what we could do is we could go to private funding only, which would basically go to private donors, like in the fundraiser option, and toward our billionaires. And I like how they call them billionaires when they only give me like 20 million pesos. What else could we do? So what I also want to do in this episode is we are going to journalists kidnapped in Puerto Rico by Puerto Rican communist formation. Wow. Interesting. Do we want to launch counterterrorism operations in Puerto Rico, even though that's the US's job? Relative energy independence. Our country depends to a certain extent on other nations to provide for its energy needs. Not speaking dramatically, the situation must make us think about the means at our disposal to free ourselves from this relationship. Our energy bill would be much reduced, and we would then be protected from geopolitical and economic hazards. And good job by the ecologist Green Party of Mexico. Interesting fact about the Mexican presidential election, I actually did do, I looked at a poll that came out between the 2nd and the 5th of December. Claudia Sheinbaum's party has a 60% margin of victory for this poll, and obviously the election is going to take place in June. I think it's June or July, but what is interesting is to just see how much of a landslide victory that would be for the Morena Party. And the Morena Party is under a coalition under AMLO. Essentially, right now, they are a 3-party coalition with the Labor Party and the Ecologist Party. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to do a little bit more of an investment into our transportation sector. We want to invest in some more road paths and bike paths. However, we do want to increase our road maintenance. We want to increase the access for handicapped, and we're going to focus on rail transportation as well. What we're also going to do is that we're going to come over here and we're going to start building some high-speed rail lines to the north. So in the last episode, we did do a Monterrey to San Antonio line, and we're also going to invest into a Tijuana Los Angeles line. I think we're going to do Tijuana to... are we going to do Los Angeles, or could we do... Yeah, we're just going to do Los Angeles. Let's go straight from Los Angeles. Maybe Anaheim. We could do Anaheim, too. It's kind of like in the southern end. That would kind of make more sense. Or we could do San Diego. San Diego would obviously make sense, but connecting 2 large cities, again, makes a lot of sense. But anyway, we are going to go over here. We're going to invest into this train line right here, and that'll be 109 billion pesos, and that'll take about 17 months to build. And so this will be fully funded by the Treasury Reserve. So we actually did this intentionally in the last episode. And we're going to spend the rest of this on to San Luis Potosi line all the way up to Monterrey. This will serve as a good investment for Mexican transportation. We're going to invest 54 billion pesos into this, along with an extra 193 billion pesos over the next 5 years. This will take about 14,000 people, take 1 year to complete, and that will take up the rest of our money. And let's go over to Tijuana, and let's go circumvent San Diego, and we're going to do a straight Tijuana to Los Angeles line. I'm going to go ahead and do a 100% investment here. Actually, I'm going to try to see if the United States wants to fund a little bit of this project. We're going to do 60%. Try to see if the United States can do it. Get it done in 13 months. So Mexico bears the cost of 47 billion pesos, 60% of the cost, and then the United States would be bearing the rest of it. So that's an overall project cost of 78.4 billion pesos. Let's go ahead and send that over to the United States. If they don't accept it, we will go ahead and just cover the entire thing.
It's begun. World leaders are beginning to arrive at the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change.
All right, and we have a brand new COP conference, COP31. COP31 will be taking place in 2026. You're now encouraged to review and we hope improve your own national commitments. So we are going to shoot for 300 CO2 emissions, 300 megatons in CO2 emissions by 2030. And I think we could actually shoot to get that to 270. Carbon neutrality will still be reached in 2040. We will not be doing anything to change. We will not be doing anything to change the 2040 deadline for right now. G3 implant bionic assistant for brain available in stores. HMM microprocessors. I believe they don't know how to cook yet. And the models we have just been released, they even integrate functions of physical control. They analyze the nervous signals received by the brain and warn emergency services in case of a problem. You know how controversial that would be. Well, it looks like the United States actually said no to that train line, unfortunately. Let's go to the message. Tijuana, Los Angeles, abandon, a little bit of a bug there. The project, because the currently is in difficult financial situation, does not allow it to make big financial investment works. So we will go ahead and bear the cost of the entire project. 5.25% deficit right now. That is very, very unfortunate for the United States. However, Mexico is in an economic position to bear the cost of this a little bit. And we'll go ahead and connect this back over to Los Angeles. We'll go ahead and cover 100% of the cost. And this will be another 50 billion pesos into the project. We'll do 60 billion. 60 billion pesos into that project. So that has us going from 1,300 kilometers of train line to 3,002. We also want to go ahead and invest into some bike paths. We want to invest into some road maintenance. We want to invest into handicapped access, and we want to invest a little bit into rail transport. That'll be an additional 26 billion pesos into our budget. That'll be really good for the Mexican economy in order to instigate further economic development and spur more commercialization and investment into Mexico. I think what we'll also do is invest a little bit more into oil production, try to see if we can scrounge out a little bit more oil near the US border with Texas. We also want to build a road between Chihuahua and Hermosillo, and go to construction, main highway, and let's go ahead and connect this highway right here. We'll go ahead and do that. We will get that done. I think I'm going to wait a little bit before we do another large-scale transportation investment. We still have a lot of highways under construction. Let's go ahead and see. So we have a train line connecting from Puebla to Mexico City to Leon to San Luis Potosi to Monterrey, and then Monterrey connects over to San Antonio, and a train line will now be connecting to Los Angeles from Tijuana. So good. 3,484 people have died in traffic accidents this quarter. However, this is a good figure because it is on its way down. Well, actually, no, it didn't say it was on its way down. Hang on, I'm kind of blind. Where was that? Me literally saying that it was on its way down whenever I think it said it was on increase. So we will try to have a little bit of a change in some road laws. Maybe we can come over here, legislation. Let's continue to play this, and we're gonna get to January 10th or 11th. Or 12th at least, in order to get to the Caillou Summit, of course. I think I've said this enough where obviously the episode will end after the Caillou Summit. So level of ID checks. Whoa, we're at strong. Identity check is a police action that aims to establish the identity of a person. It can take place for various reasons. Suspected person, criminal investigation, breach of the peace, anti-terrorism, controls near the border, the Ministry of Interior, established conditions for intervening in the actions guidelines. So we are at strong. So do we want to keep that in order to alleviate civil liberties, or do we want to continue to have strong ID checks policies? So we were talking about the car crashes. If we can actually reduce the speed limits, we could maybe have a little bit of an effect. But I think I'm gonna just hold off on changing speed limits for right now. I think we could do better maybe with some automatic radars on the side of the road. What we also could try to do is open another military base in Guatemala. What I want to try to do is to get at least a marine base, a troop base. I want to deploy at least a couple thousand troops into Costa Rica and Guatemala. If we can do that, that will really help us out, kind of showing that Mexico is ready for an international presence. Strategic pact, let's go and ask them, try to see if we can get them to accept our terms. And we still don't get them to accept our terms for a military base, so hopefully maybe there might be an issue that'll crop up where we can say, all right, we need to start the liberation of Guatemala. Feast of the Virgin, let's go ahead and accept that. Puerto Rico, continue to ignore that shit situation. We don't want to talk to any of the terrorists. Political party in El Salvador, continue to support them. And when is that election so we can intervene? 189 days, so probably in the next episode we are going to be able to intervene in that election. We have a ship that is moving from Tijuana all the way to the other coast on the other side of the country. Why are they not using the highways? We're building all these highways, just use them. Actually, I can kind of see why. We're going to build a highway from Colima to Uruapan to Morelia, and then to Tucola, and then that'll connect over here. So we need to start connecting these inner regions right here, especially Michoacan. We need to connect that. I think we could also do for another port. This port could probably go up here. Maybe we can do it Tampico. Tampico could probably have a port. And then we're just considering more infrastructure projects because Mexico is a very, very good real estate. It's free real estate for how much infrastructure we can actually build in Mexico. Subway line, we are going to build a little bit more in Distrito Federal. Interesting thing about Distrito Federal, it is not called Distrito Federal, it is actually called Mexico City. It's just Ciudad de Mexico, and that is the official name of the state. So for some reason, Eversim still has it in the old term where it is still called Distrito Federal. In 2016 is when that name was changed, and for some reason Mexico City is actually not in Distrito Federal. There is the city of Zico in Distrito Federal, but for some reason Mexico is not in Mexico City. So interesting. I want to go see. There actually might be a chance that I go see this volcano soon enough. There might be a chance that I will be going to Mexico maybe in the next year, 2 years, something like that. Would be very interesting. So the focus of this episode today is going to be the beginning of a trade war with China. China is the biggest economic power on the planet, but they have a disadvantage. They are growing extremely quickly over the past 40 years, and Mexico has become the second largest economy in the world. However, China has usually benefited off of the case that they are the world's manufacturing base. You go anywhere in your country, whether you live in Europe, in the United States, Canada, Mexico, you will see something on the shelf, on your toy shelf, on your computer, anything inside of your house, and it may say made in China. What we are going to do is we are going to challenge that. The aim of this series is to make Mexico a manufacturing powerhouse. That is why we invested half a trillion pesos into our education sector in the last episode, is in order to try to say that we need to invest into our children's future. We need to invest into our economic future in order to make sure that our economy is going to be run by higher skilled labor. But at the same time, we have an efficient enough workforce to where they do not need as much payment compared to our northern neighbor, and comparatively we can make a lot of profit off of our economic business. We will be trying to sign some more trade deals with the United States, so we will invite them over for a meeting in order to get them to sign a economic contract or two with us. We're going to do an entire economic agreement with them. We have 3 economic contracts with the United States and 1 with the United Kingdom. One of them is for oil, the other is for oranges, and with the United Kingdom we have automobiles, and the third one right there that you see is for helicopters, which I'm not going to count a military contract, a military purchase contract as a economic agreement. So we're going to invite the United States over, and we're going to try to sign at least a 250 billion peso economic agreement with the United States to sell them some product. If we can't get up that high, I think that's going to kind of be the aim, but I don't know how much product I can actually sell. But what we're also going to do is we're going to go into our industrial sector, and we're going to start tariffing the living hell out of China. What that will do for us is that number one, will start to collect fees on Chinese imports coming into Mexico. That will prevent Chinese products, especially sanctioned by the United States, from entering the United States, because China will not try to sell that to us because they want to find a cheaper buyer. What we're going to do is that we're going to start tariffing China. I think we already started doing some sectors where we did have some tariffs on China. I think it was mostly things like it wasn't that, it was like automobiles. So I think I already have some tariffs on automobiles, for example. We're going to go through each individual sector, and we're going to start tariffing China by at least 15 to 25%. Depending on the sector, we are going to tariff at least 50%. So aeronautical construction, China is increasing their sector power in terms of how many planes they are building. We are going to start tariffing them as well because they are producing just a tiny bit more than us. So we're actually pretty similar in terms of production. However, more investments will be able to get us above them. So China, we're going to increase tariffs on aeronautical construction by 15%. We're going to do aircraft carrier aluminum. We're going to tariff aluminum on China by 40%. I really would like to have a better aluminum production here. So we're going to increase aluminum production to 10.5 billion pesos. And we are going to exonerate the sector. Could we? We already have. So once we get 5 billion in profits, I'm going to unexonerate the sector. Scrolling down, we have the Alzheimer's vaccine. We have anti-missile battery, automobile construction. We're going to increase tariffs here to 45. We're going to do 50% on China. And bauxite, I need to do a bauxite contract with Brazil. Biotechnology, we're going to do a custom duty on China here. And they seem to be a non-producer. They are a non-producer of biotechnology, so we will not worry about that. I actually will do a sanction on them. We will ban the export of biotechnology to China. We don't want our biotechnology getting to them, so we will go ahead and approve the banning of exports of biotechnology to China. Bottled water, we're not going to mess with that. Building, housing, and roadway, we're going to increase tariffs on China for building, housing, and roadway construction, the construction sector. We're going to increase tariffs on them by 10% to 35%. Cannons, carbon nanofiber, we're going to do a 20% tariff on China. And cement, we will do a 55% tariff here. And chemicals, we will do a we're going to do a 40% tariff here. Clothing, we are going to do a 50% tariff. We're going to do a 60% tariff. In order to protect our own national market, we're going to ban the importation of Chinese clothing. So go ahead and protect our national market here and no longer receive any type of Chinese clothing. However, I will be paying attention to the prices here because I feel like that if we do ban the importation of clothing to China, that could increase prices on clothing. So we're gonna wait to see if there's any type of reaction in that sector. Computer hardware industry, 170 billion pesos this year. Profits 59 billion pesos. We're going to increase tariffs on computer hardware to 50% against China. Electric automobiles, we're going to do a 25% tariff on both automobile sectors. So here and here. We're going to do tariffs on both of those. Consumer electronics, China is a huge notorious consumer and producer of consumer electronics. We're going to put a 60% tariff on there, increasing it by 20%. Copper, could we do a copper tax on copper tariff on China, 15%, because it is a raw material. We will be doing less tariffs on them. Diamond, drones, electrical materials, 25%. We're going to do a 30% tariff on them. Electronic components, we're going to do a 60% tariff. Fuel cell batteries, we're going to do a 25% tariff on China here in order to promote our own national production. Gold, Great Public Bionics, we have a 62 billion peso industry here. I'm going to ban the exportation of Great Public Bionics to China and confirm that there. Again, trying to protect our own IP, intellectual property. Household appliances, we will do a 50% tariff against China. And infantry, iron, what is the iron market looking like? I think China dominates this. Yeah, dominates is a long shot. So we probably won't have that much of a chance of promoting our own national production here, but we can try. So let's go ahead and do a 5 billion peso subsidization there. And we're going to do exonerate as well. Well, we already are exonerating it. We could also consider the nationalization of this sector, but we will not do that right now. Jewelry, lead, what else could we do? Nano robotics industry. Naval construction, we should promote this sector. So I know China is a huge shipbuilder. We're going to go ahead and increase naval construction tariffs by 35%. And nickel we don't have any production of. That sucks. Paper, we're not going to worry about. Perfumes and cosmetics, I think we could do, yeah, we already have a tariff actually. We're going to increase that to 30%. Pharmaceutical industry is a huge one. I'm going to increase this to 40%. Plastics, railway construction, rare earth oxides, robot, satellite, silver, sodas. I think the United States dominates the soda market. I know that. China is the second biggest producer. India and Mexico is kind of, it's up there. It's up there. So we could subsidize our own production. We're going to do 5 billion pesos. And we're going to exonerate the sector. What do we do? Oh yeah, no, never mind. Don't exonerate it. Software industry, and we're going to ban the exportation of software to China. And we are also going to exonerate the sector. We already have. Steel, we are going to do a massive, and I mean massive. We are going to do a massive 70% tariff on China for steel. That will be a massive increase in the price of steel in Mexico. Could be a massive increase in the prices. But we need to focus again on our own national production. We're going to increase subsidies to offset this massive amount of tariffing to 25 billion pesos. We're going to go ahead and confirm that order, and we're going to continue on with our trade war. Synthetic fibers at 101 billion pesos with 13 billion in profits. We are going to, number one, ban the importation of synthetic fibers from China. And we are going to do a 30% tariff. But actually, we're going to eliminate this tariff because the reason is there doesn't make sense to have tariffs on things we're not even allowed to import from that country. So why would we be trying to import that and have a tax on it when we don't allow the importation of it at all? I'm going to check clothing too. Tire industry, we don't have tires, so this is not something that we have. Water supply networks, utility vehicle construction, we need to increase that. We're going to do 70% tariffs on China for this. Let's go to the next state, see what the reaction is in diplomatic relations and in the public sphere. So people really like the industrial efforts that I've made, and there is no message from the WTO that basically says that I need to get rid of these tariffs or importation bans. So that is good. And what else I want to do? Let's go to farming. We're going to choose a couple of sectors to increase our tariffs from China for. So fish is a huge sector in China. Let's go over to here and let's check to see what the production is. China has 32% of the world's production of fish. I make up 1.47% of this. Go over to tons by year and let's go to here. And we make 3.3 million tons of fish every year. China makes 73.9 million tons. What I can do is I can go over to aquaculture. We're already doing a 12 billion peso subsidy here. Have we exonerated it? We have not. So let's go ahead and exonerate the sector and the fishing sector as well. So let's also go to aquaculture, let's increase the tariff on fish to 50%. And let's go to fishing, and that is already, so it's both of them. So the tax is on both fishing and aquaculture. So that's pretty good. I have a feeling that at some point it could be a good idea for me to just ban the importation of Chinese fish. Why are we importing fish from China whenever they obviously flood the international markets with their own fish? And let's go down. I think we're gonna do a final custom duty on China for rice. We're gonna do a 30% tariff on China for rice. So this will horribly damage our international relations with China. So let's go over to here and let's go to our relations. Economic relationship is -80 right now. So -15 because of the political tendencies in power. And let's go over here. Embargoes and tariffs is a -70% hit on international relations between Mexico and China. We are doing this to compete with you. We are not trying to become your enemy, but we need to compete with you in order to prioritize our own national economy. So it's nothing against you, China, but we need to invest in our own future. So we have our meeting with the United States. We're going to offer him a coffee. We're going to offer a glass of champagne. I love your country. Renegotiate. We're going to do a sales contract with the United States. We're going to go over to sale. We're going to try to... So they are very self-sufficient on aeronautical construction. Aluminum, we don't have that much of an aluminum production, so we don't want to worry about that right now. We don't want to cheap it out with all of the cars that we have. So let's go ahead and try to do other types of sectors. We could maybe sell them some gold. Could make a little bit of sense. Let's do 5 million here. Sale price, let's do 87 for the United States. add clause, go over here. All right, and we are back. So we have the San Luis Potosi Agreement, which consists of coal, natural gas, silver, wood, and flour exports. Coal will be set at a price of $65.72. Natural gas will be set at a price of $90.97. Silver will be set at a price of $13.71. Wood will be set at a price of $40.14, and flowers will be set at a whopping 50,000 pesos per ton. And we have all of this. Let's go ahead and hit the negotiate button, and the contract is still here. So we have coal 65.72, 93.86, and that looks satisfactory. Silver is at 10.93, satisfactory. 28.77, pretty good, and flowers 42.134. So that is well above our sale prices for all of this, and this will be set for a 5-year contract. Let's go ahead and hit the accept button, sign the agreement, and that is in effect as of right now. Termination date for this will be at the end of 2031, just before the year 2032, and that is good. Threatened to reveal the scandals involving President Biden, so that is kind of unfortunate. We don't have the position to threaten him over anything, so let's go ahead and have him make an effort for global warming. Unfortunately, he tries to insult me, so I won't worry about that. Next Caillou Summit in Puebla on the 9th of January 2027. Let's go ahead and accept this, and we have a meeting with the Communist League in El Salvador.
I'm listening carefully. How much would this aid? Thank you for your
2 million pesos go over to his party to try to help them win the election. However, we will be intervening in that election in order to try to get him to win, because we need a friendly government in El Salvador. We need someone that is going to agree with us, and maybe if there is a little bit of a funny that's about to happen in Guatemala, then we need his help too. Could we actually depend on any of these guys militarily if we needed to? 13,000 men in the Salvadorian military, 13,000 in not Honduras, 16,000 in Honduras. Nicaragua, you have 240 men inside of the entire Nicaraguan army. What the hell happened in our army? What about Panama? I know they have a very small military, 7.9 thousand people. They have the smallest military force in the entire Central America. Even Costa Rica could easily take over Nicaragua if anything were to happen. Should we just invade Nicaragua just for the giggles of it? And so we have it right here. So the meeting between Claudia Sheinbaum and the United States Head of State Tom Baden. Sheinbaum rejoices at their perfect understanding of great interest Tom Baden has for our country. And the Mexican and United States Heads of State sign a historic economic contract between the two countries for a total of 351 billion pesos between our two countries. And for an inauguration on a university campus yesterday, a huge crowd gathered in order to attend the inauguration of the huge construction. After 4 months of work, Baja California Sur can finally be proud to add such a building to its wealth. The president's presence, who was in charge of personally cutting the red ribbon, added a solemn touch that displeased the city mayor. The latter didn't move from Claudia Sheinbaum's side during the whole ceremony, a big smile on his lips. Imagine literally getting cucked by the president of Mexico. So what is interesting is that So I'm really excited that we were able to effectively get that huge economic contract going with the United States. Will really start to benefit relations between our two countries, and it just shows how much of a strong economic ally the United States is and how they are benefiting the Mexican economy. That is one of the biggest things I wanted to do in this series, is to move Mexico closer to the West instead of just being a neutral country in international conflict. The industrial pollution tax has passed, so that will hopefully start to bring inflation down, and we can only increase that 0.5% more. And once that happens, we're going to have to start increasing taxes elsewhere in order to fight inflation. President Maria Mustani of Italy wants a meeting, so we'll go ahead and accept this at the end of the Caillou Summit. And the economy grew 5.65% And we have our end of the year results. So we have an unfavorable regime change in the Maldives, favorable regime change in Pakistan. 1.3 trillion pesos has been awarded to us for the economic situation. Unhealthy housing situation, we will review. 500 helicopters have been delivered. Industrial pollution tax and financial transaction tax have passed. The economy grew at 5.65% in the year 2026, and the GDP is now at 33.01 trillion pesos. That is a hugely good figure that the economy grew at a consistent 5%, which is nice. So let's go over to unhealthy housing situation. 37 houses, 19% of them were bad. So that is still a hugely bad number, but is way better than what we had at the very beginning of the series. And we have a huge disapproval rating with our public finances. Very normal for the very beginning of the year, usually resets by the time the next economic value is reset, which is usually at the beginning of the first Monday of the year. So if you ever see that at the end of the year, it has this huge thing where it says like your public finances crash, that's essentially the finances kind of equaling themselves out, kind of getting in the new calculations for the new year. And then it calculates it again at the end of the next Monday, which, by the way, the Mondays are when the economic calculations take place. So if you ever do a policy, when you get, every time you get a new newspaper, that is when the economic calculations turn over. So usually like when your growth resets, anything like that, will be on that Monday. So something else I just noticed here, let's go over to immigration, go over here, and let's go to number of immigrants in the country. Our immigrant population is on its way down for some reason. And if I go over to illegal immigration, we have number of illegal immigrants in the country, undocumented foreigners in the territory and percent of the population. It has come to a dead stop and is slowly starting to decrease. So I think we just hit a ceiling in terms of our illegal immigration situation. It could change at any moment. However, the situation has officially stabilized over the last 3 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next episode. In the beginning of the game, 94.3% was illegal immigration, and 70% of this is now illegal immigration. However, our share of legal immigration, which is the return of students, economical, humanitarian, family reasons, etc., is on its way up from 3.2% to 8%, but deportation is starting to become the biggest mode for expulsions from the country. So this is expulsion of foreigners in a country illegally, mainly because of the increased amount of detention centers that we have invested in. Regularizations are still up. Those are still up, and naturalizations are up almost 100,000. So that is still good. And number of naturalizations annually and percentage of the number of immigrants in the country, which is 16%. We have not accepted any refugees. So that is pretty interesting to see. And I think, look at that, 4.7 trillion 4.7 trillion pesos is how much we're spending here. I think it's mostly because of all of the contracts that I've signed: 30, 60, 90, 120, 160, 190, etc., etc., etc. So at least like 200 billion pesos is being spent on our immigration agreements. Let's go ahead and increase the interest rate to 2.15%. Please increase it. Can we please increase it? I need it. I need it. I need it. I need it. Please. Please, 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 please. So the growth rate has stopped itself at 5.63%, and we are now officially above our original marker of inflation. Right now, it has doubled over the last year. Inflation is on its way up. It's from 4% to 8% over the last year. So let's go over to the next day, see what Italy wants, and see what the interest rates are going to be. 0.14%. Of course, they don't want to increase it. I am going to invade every single one of you guys if you don't start helping me out with this inflation. I'm going to leave the organization. I swear to God, I'm going to leave Caillou. Creation of a new ambitious space program. Shame and favorable regime change in Nigeria.
Good morning.
Council. Go ahead and see what she wants. She wants to sell me some natural gas. I'm going to refuse that. So we are going to go ahead and end this episode here, guys. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it on the channel. And if you guys are interested in seeing some more episodes, go ahead and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it on the channel. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.